So, what's next, Gwent? Chop chop?
Something a bit different, ma'am. A female and illegal. Absolutely no papers, and not at all young. A performer of sorts. She was caught during your very own Operation Camera Obscura.
Really? How wonderfully rewarding. You film secretly, Missy, working illegally. Is that what I'm watching now?
Yes.
What is it exactly?
There's nothing much. A gaggle of silly women, mainly. A small theatre thing, provoked by their experiences in the pandemic.
You, Missy. Oi!
She doesn't have to shout. I can hear her.
We don't know if she understands English. Anyway, she appears to be mute, ma'am.
Missy Mute, you have been collared.
Collared. An archaic English idiom meaning detained or restrained.
It is possible the woman is intellectually impaired.
She certainly looks like a half-wit, and she smells squent. Couldn't she have been washed before questioning? Who are these people? They must be complicit, and there's no social distancing. Why have they not been approached?
As I understand it, government guidelines allowed unprotected social contact by this time, ma'am.
There you are. What on earth is she doing?
I'm eating very small bits of spaghetti.
It looks like she's pretending to eat worms, ma'am.
Worms?
She's playing the part of a pangolin.
She looks nothing like a pangolin.
During the pandemic, artists worked on their own. It was sometimes lonely.
It wasn't perfect. Sometimes it was transformative.
So what now?
The performance starts.
Where? The pangolin is a mammal of the order Pholidota, which in the ancient Greek means clad in scales.
The one extant family
The Manidia,
has 3 genera.
Manis.
Fantaginus, and Smutsia.
Really? Smutsia? I mean, really?
Vatiginus!
Sorry, but I find that.
Hard.
Find that.
All those long words.
Hard to believe.
Pangolins are solitary creatures and meet only to mate.
I met a pangolin in a bar in Finsbury Park.
Why are they laughing, Squint?
During lockdown, he lived under the stairs, feasting on termites and carpenter ants.
I know him. Tall, curly hair, orange specs.
He'd lost his job in retail and had recently taken to coming out last Friday of the month, here to the dark lost box.
I sat on the same stool.
Lime and soda clutched in his elegant long curly claw, smiling over shyly.
Raising a glass.
A proper old-fashioned pangolin.
Pangolins are poached for their meat. In the early 80s, at Maison Boucher de Tours, they poached a whole pangolin, pickled on a bed of courgette flowers.
Nonsense. Chef eschewed courgette flowers.
No. In the early 90s on the Gold Hawk Road, we sold ground pangolin scales.
Hilarious.
No, they were sold to non-lactating mothers. And for hysteria.
Pangolins are the most trafficked creatures in the world.
Surprise, surprise.
We all remember the picture of the poor baby pangolin
face down in the waves, drowned, poor mite.
And therefore the most endangered.
It would be, wouldn't it?
In my second year at St. Kateria's, we were taught natural history by Pangolin. She took us foraging and let us call her Pam.
I know her. Dated her briefly. Lovely smile.
Instead of using the lockers, after each lesson, she'd dig a small hole for her books.
I had a pangolin nurse in HDU. She used to smuggle in small teasers and then complain that her scales split her plastic protective pinny.
My nan's a pangolin, actually.
In the global pandemic of 2019,
the pangolin was made complicit in the spread of COVID-19.
I am pangolin.
I am pangolin.
I am pangolin. I am pangolin.
I'm Pangolin.
I am
I
pangolin.
am Pangolin.
Slaughtered.
I am Pangolin.
Slaughtered to the point of near extinction.
Look, we have, all of us here, made an effort to come out and try to have a nice time, haven't we? Yes, to watch a few short films. Am I right? Yes, and to mingle, and a few turns, and to enjoy a crisp, dry Chardonnay, which, madam, I think you might have had too many. But never mind. We've all come here to work out what the pandemic meant to us. So I fail to see, and I'm sure our audience will agree, what this wretched pangolin creature has to do with anything.
Hey!
She began to paint self-portraits. A lockdown project, she said, to stay sane. Straight onto the wall she'd done them. The artist at 15, 40, 23, 12, all in freakish colours. And there they were, just staring at her. All her past selves. Eyes full of accusation and regret, she said. What? I said. She started talking to them and stopped talking to me. Well, she'd always been a bit, but this was eerie. I watched her through the door. Her and her faces, all ages, all marrying into one. Not my wife. A fucking hydra. Well, she'd have to sleep sometime. And when she did, I'd go in there, take my paintbrush, and paint the bitches over.
Yes, they tried to paint me out too. They took me, brought me here, and I live now behind their walls.
The Hydra, a she-monster from Greek mythology, had 9 heads. Heracles, the son of Zeus, was sent to kill her, and with his big sword, he set about slicing all her heads off. But for each head he severed, 2 grew in their place. This she-monster seemed indestructible, but Heracles was a very determined hero, and with the aid of an even bigger sword and some flamethrowers, he set about chopping all her heads off again, and he cauterized the stumps with his great balls of fire. And she couldn't grow her heads back. And that was the end of the Hydra. Or was it? Look, it's only a myth. Anyway, no such thing as a 9-headed she-monster, indestructible or not. So there was me, right, Googling the Hydra as research for this project. And I was confused because, well, I found myself reading about a new and exciting scientific discovery. A freshwater organism, a tiny, weeny little thing with a long, trunk-like body and 9 head-like tentacles. And what it said was that if left undisturbed in their own natural habitat, these pond-life bugs appeared to be indestructible. And the scientists had tried everything to destroy them. They'd chopped off their heads, they dismembered the bodies, they set them on fire, they blended them up into a liquidizer, and then they'd sat back, right, and they'd watched as these liquidized bugs had regrown their heads and they'd regenerated themselves, holding the secret of immortality. So the scientists called them the Hydra. So not such a myth after all.
You didn't tell me it was a primitive feminist piece, Gwent. Lord help us, we really do have better things to do with our time here.
From this evening, I must give the British people a very simple instruction. You must stay at home.
So I was coming out from the train station, just minding my own business, trying to get out through the barrier so I could come to work as a nurse. And these couple just come and physically and verbally abuse me.
Whether it originates from bats or pangolins, from the demented belief that if you grind up the scales of a pangolin, you will somehow become more potent.
Throughout my life, I have been told oh so many times that BCs don't experience racism. Well, if that was true, not one single East or Southeast Asian person will be attacked on a British street. I once overheard a cabbie saying, "The Chinese are trying to take over the world. They want us all to be Chinese." But this pandemic has changed everyone's life. It's made me more wary of strangers, of using public transport. And why is it when some people see a face like mine, they just don't see a human being? I mean, we are all exactly the same, but uniquely different. Shouldn't we be celebrating that? I mean, life would be so boring if we were just merely carbon copies of each other, don't you think? It's just a thought.
Just look at the creature. She can't sit still. Where on earth did they find her?
An advert in the stage, ma'am.
I was furloughed, Gerald told me. I dropped in to pick up my brolly and he was taking down Fred's plastic screens. They didn't comply. That's what the bobby said. I could have told them that. He'd made them out of a garden trellis, plastic folders he'd bought from the post office and duct tape. It's a fish and chip shop, the Codfather. The deep fat fryer made them bubble and gave out a funny smell and bits flaked off. There'd been complaints. "You've been furloughed," he said with a nasty grin. He knew I didn't know what it meant. "Right. Oh, rightio." I marched up the hill straight into the back bedroom and Googled it. Leave of absence granted, usually to a member of the military. "You'll still get paid, ma'am, summat." "That's our Lydia. She's a right little madam. She works in a bank. You can do your crochet and sort your kitchen cupboards out." I never wanted to work in a fish and chip shop. It doesn't matter how diligent you are with your personal hygiene, you always smell of fish. "That's why I married you, Chuck," my late husband Stan said. "Every night, Friday night." And then he'd laugh. He had a loud, funny laugh. Not nice funny. So I never wanted to work in a fish and chip shop. I used to be good at netball, running, swimming. Do you know, I've never even seen a live fish in the sea, even though I've battered thousands. I've never been abroad. Stan didn't like travel. I never wanted to work in a fish and chip shop. I wanted to join the army.
Ma'am, bless. She never stood a chance working in a chippy. She was a natural born compliant. Oh, she's had her fourth now, and she's cracking on. She's immune sufficient. Well, I know it's hay fever. Dad would have understood. He had a scant formal education, but he was a free thinker, and he always had a smile on his face. Salt and vinegar in the world, that's what I think. She was always on the pessimistic side. I was never interested in running, netball. makes you sweaty and gives you big calves. I'm more of a artistic temperament. Oh, I do enjoy yoga. I've got a pair of citrus yoga pants and I've got 9 sports bras, all named after tropical fruits. I wear mango on Wednesday. Oh, isn't it lovely as all being here together, breathing over one another? These last 2 years have been ridiculous. I mean, what was the point of locking us all up in our houses? It engendered depression, domestic abuse. Oh, dear. The mental health crisis went through the roof, mind you. I think there are some that took the you-know-what. Oh, no, I didn't agree with that at all. I mean, we all get fed up in January, don't we? I bought myself a special light to sit under and drink my hibiscus tea. And after 2 custard creams, I felt positively chipper. Of course, you do have to feel sorry for the ones who lost their jobs. But there is a shortage of baristas now. You have to make yourself flexible like me. Mind you, you don't have to believe everything they tell you. Oh, no. I make up my own mind. No one's going to force me to put a needle in my arm. Manipulation by a corrupt government who signed up with a global laboratory who want to monitor every breathing human. Ooh. They want to inject a fluid that can watch you from inside. Oh, trust me. I've got 9 GCSEs and a high recommendation in human biology. I know what I'm talking about. They want to monitor every move, control every thought. You'll never get a needle in me. I say to Mam, throw your head back and smile. Grab every life's opportunity. Make something of yourself for yourself. That's my motto. Oh, and don't get me on about this army malarkey. Oh, I think she's got a missing pickled onion these days. I would lend her my light, but it's not hygienic. Oh, I better rush. I've got a date with Darryl. Botox.
And you're the star of the show, old Missy Newt. The pangolin itself. This rubbish simply cannot be allowed any more, Squint.
In the beginning, wearing masks is the new hood. In the beginning was the breath. In the beginning was the breath that was. In the beginning was the breath that was lost. Acting the cunt, I did my bit, looking for the doormats, the what's left, passing for human. Brother, can you spare a spliff? Furlough? Not furlongs cut as in bough from a branch. The new furlough curfew mother flouter, broken like a bow-down dominator meter. No fewer than 2. The beginning of the breath that was lost. I get excited when I meet my heroes. I get breathless. Launched on a table, lifting her dress. Here's my pussy, take a picture of this. Silence in the stalls. The beginning of the breath. It's like the man I called Dad blew my mind. Particles of me sprayed over black holes. And now I'm picking them out, tunnelling to find myself. the beginning was the breath that was lost. You had your brother by the throat, laying on top on the coursey edge. Witness the baton handed down in a place where hard was all and softness could be cold, and the littler ones had to learn. In the beginning was the breath that was. Lying in the bathwater, hands look huge. Flexing will make them strong. In the beginning was the breath that was lost. Now you could face them. The hags, witches, filth, who took my insides like a surgeon, went right in, blew out my lungs, splattered my organs, tongues, machetes and shears, splitting you open across stone floors. Perpetual visitors that made me. In the beginning was the breath that. In the beginning was the breath. In the beginning was they. In the beginning was. In the beginning. In the. In. In skullscarf, shades, black masked, she shapeshifts into memory-stirring walking boots, last worn last year on a beach of dunes, wisped by grass.
On her novice feet, she feels embarrassed to step into the street. She scurries not to see anyone she knows, albeit not many. She keeps her head low. Lockdown's been a boon, except for the man who stomps round her street shouting, "Boom!" The cemetery's where her friends are found. The dead can't harm her. The multi-denominational holds her favourite graves to hit. W.H. Smith's in there, not the shop. The main man, smooth granite topped by an open book. Smith's tactile tomb, solid. She visits Wilkie Collins, Thackeray, Painter Ballard. The dark of it all she carries as a duty. Pays homage annually to Bill and Zoe, Blitz victims, September 1940. Today, she took a sharp right into the Catholic bit, searching acres for a friend's husband who gave no clear direction, looked among stumps and stamped in mud around endless, punctuated ground. After a couple of 100 graves, she stopped, took in the scene on this damp, sodden day. Surrounded by mounds, she found herself among the freshly dead. Christ, it must be COVID. She was astounded. Inside acknowledging death, here was the truth, evidential lying beneath. Zombified, she was shaken back to life. Boom! He's here. He's here. He's here. She was grateful his angst awakened her to the real devastation.
I might have told her about the small grave I dug 3 days before I left.
Breathing's lethal. Intimacy illegal. When we need more hugs than before, we could catch a bug and put our mothers into morgues. Closeness is killing us. Distance stops us dying.
One thing I've learned is politicians are bad liars.
Boris can't afford to put money into nurses' purses, but he can afford to put hundreds of nurses into hearses. Yeah, so I drove 30 miles to test my eyes.
I was looking for tractors. I got the wrong side.
It wasn't a social gathering. We're only drinking pints. Now I know your son is dying, but I can't let you say bye.
Maybe Matt and Gina didn't know that they were cheaters, got confused between the COVID-19 vaccine and Matt Sweeney, confusing the vaccine with Matt Speen. Because as they were sticking it in, they said, don't worry, it'll be over quick. You won't feel a thing, just a little tiny prick. I'm afraid we just can't let you say goodbye.
Do you agree with that person? Are you a lesbian?
During the pandemic, I started realizing that I had a problem with skin picking. It started when I was about 12, 13, and then it started getting worse over time. But I didn't realize I had this problem. Being forced to be indoors helped me see that I needed to do something about it. So I finally started calling it out and going, okay, I have a compulsion. And that kind of helped me, actually, yeah.
And how do you feel now? Has it got better, or are you still working on
it? It's gotten better. Mm-hmm. I'm definitely still working on it.
And so actually that you are questioning yourself in itself, that shows that you are probably a very good person, because otherwise you would not have the self-awareness, I think. So
I hope so.
Were you deliberately pointing your face away from the camera?
Free at last, she says. Finally. After 35 years, I'm done with them.
My neighbour has given up smoking.
The lockdown cured me. So coronavirus was good for something. Funny. To think I'll never buy another packet. If only I'd known, when I bought this one. It would be the last.
And she sets off, wheezing slightly, jogging. I don't tell her about my last pack. I went into lockdown one woman, and I came out someone else. If only I'd known. I'll never buy another pack. I'm done with them. After 35 years. Why don't I feel free?
Will I ever be free?
The easing of spring.
The loosening of lockdown.
Hear ye, roll up. Vaccines aplenty. At a distance.
Yeah. Vauxhall Astra jab, that's a good one. And I believe the Morris Oxford, that's a good one. And the Austin Cambridge is also very good. Nasty thing, this virus. I'd say it's a nasty thing, this virus. And I I'm going to tell you that things are as they are.
Beware, virus variants may pixelate.
Spring! The easing of the spring! Lockdown is loosening! What will be the plan? Will it be about our isolation? Our hibernation? Our indoor games? What will it be?
Coronavirus and its various mutants. Symptoms increasing. Graphs making their way. Today, as we go around the towns, we ask the man in the street.
Coughs and sneezes spread diseases. I'd say, keep your distance.
We can go now live to the
It's all
dark
over now, eh?
lost box.
Hey.
To the man in isolation. But we do hope to go live. We are going live now.
Where? Hey. Oh, Pangolin!
I swear to God, they are obsessed with those pathetic, shuffling little lumps. I thought this project was funded to explore national responses to the pandemic.
Indeed, ma'am.
Not obsessing about a beleaguered, useless, little-known Asian creature that has no impact on United Kingdom patriots. I don't know if I can stomach any more of this squint.
Oh, I rather like this chap, ma'am. Channeling the traditions of Great British Music Hall.
You might fool Squent, miss, and half the immigration office, but you don't fool me. I know you understand and speak English very well.
Respectfully, it was thought she might have suffered a trauma that resulted in elective mutism. There is evidence of quite serious old injuries. A fractured femur.
Oh, nonsense. It is in her interest to remain silent, so she won't incriminate herself. Aren't I right, miss? I've seen you talking to fellow inmates, clients, on campus CCTV. A discourse of over 3 minutes. How dare you try and make fools of us? We can't force you to talk, of course, sadly. But I will ask you 4 simple questions. If you refuse to answer, you must face the consequences. Where are you from? How did you get here? By boat? Give me the names of the criminals who assisted your passage, your facilitators and patrons. Where have you been living and how? Find your voice, Missy Mute, before the end of this interrogation, or 1, you will be on cold rations. 2, your rubber mattress will be removed and you will sleep on concrete. 3, bathing privileges will be withdrawn. 4, you will be denied association with your fellows.
I had never seen a real-life pangolin, but we all watched a film of the creature, trapped, and then... The only word that can describe what happened is tortured. The poachers removed the scales of the shivering, whimpering, gentle-eyed creature while it was still alive.
Hello everyone, I'm Chitra Saundar, coming all the way from India via Bermondsey. Thank you for inviting me to explore the topic, how the pandemic changed the world. I ask myself almost every day, has the pandemic changed us and our world? We all know how to spell the word pandemic. I also learned how to spell hydroxychloroquine. And aside from that, how did we change? Yes, ma'am, the lady in red, you're shaking your head and rolling your eyes. I can feel your frustration from up here. Perhaps you think, we haven't changed at all. And rightly so. As soon as the restrictions were lifted, we've started flying abroad and hanging out in bars. I say, who needs masks when we all hide behind our insecurities? Well, life seemed to have gone back to normal, isn't it? Yes, ma'am, you in the front row. No, don't turn around. I'm looking right at you, the one with glasses. Yes, you're right. We can't hear the birds anymore. The roar of the traffic has returned. Change can be scary, noisy, and no one's carrying any change anymore. So when the pandemic ended, we reverted to what we know well. Getting on with our lives, not worrying about the world or the planet or the box sets. Yes, sir, you in the yellow t-shirt. You are right. It's convenient. It's practical. We don't know any other way. And those who sell us things prefer us to stay this way. Do you agree?
Hello, here I am in real life, Bermondsea's prominent chat show host. How are you all feeling today? So far, so good? Yeah? So I don't have a lot of time. I have something more important than this to go to. But while I'm here, I thought I'll ask you, okay, ma'am with the yellow and nice shirt you're wearing, did you think the pandemic changed the world at all? It did? All right, okay. Anybody else? Let me see. Ma'am, did the world change you at all? Yes, the pandemic has changed your world. It changed, isn't it? We don't know what happened the last 2 years, so we can't really say anything. Let me see. Anybody wants to answer this question? Did the pandemic change the world? Ma'am, the red scarf, did the pandemic change the world?
Yes, actually, I think it did.
Where did you get your red scarf? It's really interesting. Okay. All right. You see, some of us feel the pandemic changed the world. Some of us feel it didn't change a lot. Some of us felt not changed at all. But if you think the change is not enough, be the change. Fiona Bruce will be shaking in her boots right now.
Why did you take this ridiculous job?
It paid money. I was hungry. They were nice to me. They were kind.
You're doing all you can do. Have you gotten comfortable?
Supporting my parents supported me.
The coronavirus
Medical
is the
masks
biggest
should be
threat
worn
at
by
this
the
moment of national emergency.
You must
likely to
stay
die.
at home.
Stay at home.
I don't think I'm gonna make it, man, because yeah, like the streets are empty and you guys are throwing parties. Like,
What, do you think you've got it?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I'm gonna test as well.
But yeah, just let me know how it goes.
Squint, see? She is trying to keep her face off camera again. Proof she has something serious to hide.
March the 23rd, 2020, the day we were locked down. I supported him for the last 2 years as he went through diagnosis and treatment. He tells me that he's moving out, that he needs space. 35 years of marriage and 3 kids. I honestly thought, having served 35 years, I was on the home straight to cosy fireside naps and strolls in the country. Maybe a trip to a garden centre thrown in if we fancied it. I imagined holding hands as we watched the grandchildren play. How we laughed when other couples asked the secret to our long and happy marriage. I trilled compromise. He snorted endurance. We both gave each other that special look that said, we're different. We weren't.
Dear black girl, your hair doesn't have to be easy to manage.
Her friend asked if her blood was red like hers.
Dear black girl, you don't have to be anybody's type.
He told her he'd never been with a black girl.
Dear black girl, you don't have to be blonde or brunette.
Can we touch your hair?
Dear black girl, you don't need to stop being triggered when people make you uncomfortable.
The white boy said I have to walk 10 miles to school every day and kids in Africa think they have it bad.
Dear black girl, you're not pretty for a black girl.
They told her she didn't act black.
Dear black girl, be unapologetically black.
They all told her to go back where she came from.
Dear black girl, you don't owe anybody anything.
Her brother stepped onto the carriage and a woman shouted, "Who let this monkey on the train?"
Dear black girl, you're allowed to be angry without being the angry black girl.
At the school elections, 2 little black boys voted UKIP. They were told that's how to get sent home.
Dear black girl, you can love who you want.
Mummy, who is George Floyd? Her daughter asked.
Dear black girl, keep fighting until your voice is heard.
But don't be too loud or too aggressive.
Dear black girl, you are so loved.
I'm not racist. My cousin's uncle is black.
Dear black girl, your black is beautiful.
When the lights go off, it's "Where's Tiwa?"
Dear black girl, I am you. Your hair grows up and not down. Each coil shrinks at the sight of liquid. Bold, big, brave are the words. Words not deemed as good words, but scary and intimidating and unapproachable. But black girl,
what?
Loving you is hard.
Why does it have to be hard?
But hard
to love
is
me?
good.
Hard isn't good.
Being able
It's
to find that
ridiculous.
intimate moment with yourself. Vulnerability as a sign of strength, not
to be vulnerable.
insecurity.
I won't be vulnerable.
You are indeed the soul
her.
of the earth.
Am I?
And divine feminine energy is your truth. It's
Who are you to tell me what my truth is?
Help her.
Don't you know you're 7 times more likely to be detained than your white friend over there? Dear Black
Help
girl,
her,
let's
she
give
can't
thanks
breathe.
and gratitude for Tiana and Moana. Dear Black girl, do you know why there's a statue of that man in the city square? Dear Black girl, remember what the police officers did to Nicole Smallman and Bieber Henry? Dear Black girl, they clutched their bags when our brothers walked past them in the street. Dear Black girl, don't be young, poor, and a mum. They'll take your baby away. Dear Black girl, you're also 4 times more likely to die in childbirth than the white mum across the street. Dear Black girl, how many of us are CEOs? Dear Black girl, isn't the coronavirus racist too? Because you're also twice as likely to die of that. Dear Black girl, your grandmother can work here for 45 years and they'll still try to send her home. Dear Black girl, how does it feel to feel like you're there just to make up the numbers? Dear Black girl, you and I will make sure that what happened to Child Q never happens again. Dear Black girl, never ever apologize for your anger, because sometimes anger is the only thing that will make things change.
A rant. Shameful. You look like you have fleas, by the way, or lice. Didn't your esteemed company complain?
Card is found in your seat pocket, containing important information about exit routes, oxygen masks, life jackets, and the brace position that you must adopt. If you hear the instructions, brace. There are 8 emergency exits on board this aircraft. Please be aware of your nearest useful exit as demonstrated by the cabin crew, which may also be behind you. Emergency launching will count you to an exit. In an emergency, it's all cabin baggage.
How has the pandemic changed me? I've learned to breathe.
What did she say?
She learned to breathe. She learned to breathe.
Apologies, ma'am. I was miles away.
Lucky you.
They have closed the pool. The bird drinks from the bird bath and leaves its rusted wing, like clothes in a rapture. We all wear masks in the supermarket and suffocate, or would if we weren't bedbound and petrified. Her stone legs fly away. At least now she can take hot baths. We can only take photographs of the blossoms at night. Their paleness looks like frightened flesh. Lightly feathered legs in bed, she swore her mattress was stuffed with dried daisies. That's why she's green. The sky's so pale and fragile it's obscene through dirty windows. And the shrubs smell like candles melted in the sun. At least the misery was cleansing like the rain that smells of stone. Grey days. They have closed the swimming pool. Now you drown in tiles and peeling paint. I will never swim again. Never seen the sea, but the pool was pretty big. A glass-domed ceiling you could glide with the planes as snakes of sun lick your face. And there's traces of each other. On each other. I heard they tamed a wild elephant and lived within it. Quietly, lest it unlearnt the thing. But they stubbed their toe and gulped, and it found out and went on a rampage, raging against itself. The thing within.
I'm putting a stop to it, Squent. Artists, indeed. Parasites. They will be made to get proper jobs.
Life before the pandemic was amazing. I actually owned a clothing business, and I actually had quite a few thousand followers on Instagram. I always looked at myself as Rihanna the businesswoman. But then the pandemic hit, and things started to go downhill. I couldn't actually import my clothes in from China anymore, and that meant I couldn't actually meet the demands that my customer wanted. So business was a bit, So, if I wasn't going to be Rihanna the businesswoman, who was I going to be? And I really, really struggled with that. Then I started to go on walks in the park and go cycling. And I asked myself these questions. Who is Rihanna? And I realised Rihanna likes to cook. Rihanna likes to talk to family. Rihanna likes to cycle. And I started to discover a new me. And that was amazing. That's how the pandemic changed.
Stop
me.
for a moment. Now, there is an example of a wholly admirable young woman, not native to the UK, but working within the system to make a success of herself, owning and running her own business, facing the challenges of the marketplace with dignity, humour and resolve. You learn from her, old Missy Miss. You cannot act. Your violin playing is barely tolerable. You have no stage presence. Wherever you land, and it won't be here, you will be made to be useful. Useful. Artists are a luxury in these straitened times. The world needs cleaners, delivery drivers, affordable childcare workers. Hear me. You will be made to be useful. Your sort or face extinction. Restart the film again, Squent.
Halfway through torturing the pangolin, the poachers stopped to drink beer.
Jane, come in. It's really good, it's delicious. Yes.
Yes, now where was I? I was just... yes.
Bones. No glass, and beginnings are like small, smooth stones. So this is it. Huh? The end of days. Their creature is covered in golden scales. It's like armour. you couldn't make it up. It was long planned, of course. Well, you know that. When we are gone, they will come out of the sea. The past, up in the air, of course. The future, just that I've been told that they're here already, amongst us. Do you see? What's that? What's that in your hand? Jane! Jane!
Do I know you? Don't cry. You're not well. You're
dying.
Look. Look, there's £10. See, there's £10, and you can buy food, you can buy drink, you can buy a hot drink.
I'm not hungry because of the jab.
Look, I'm giving you all I've got now. So there you go. You see, you can buy shoes. Yeah, you can buy.
Jane!
Vodafone voicemail service for 07.
Curious. What were you going to make out of it?
Back
in the big city.
Big city.
In her stuffy Victorian terraced house. The woman in the film attempted to rationalise the scene on the beach with the sick young man.
Or perhaps they had met before. Casually, perhaps he was a colleague's son or an intern. Though it seemed unlikely that she would forget such a peculiarly striking boy, she further reasoned. Perhaps they had shared a social space at some time, and he had heard her name washed up there. He had simply recognised her walking on the beach. You know, but his urgency, you know, the sense of him lying in wait for her was troubling. As for the reappearance of the young man in the flat, so altered, she was sure he couldn't have followed her back from the beach. Well, that would have given him very little time to wash, change, put shoes on, and well, how could he got through the locked front door of the apartment? Now, it was possible that she had not locked the door to the flat because she was crying and she ripped off her clothes and showered. Yes, and the water was very hot. But she'd been shivering with the cold. So that's it, she thought. The sudden changes of temperature. The running, the emotional upset, she had simply imagined the appearance of the smart young man. It was some sort of semi-erotic manifestation, you know, born out of weeks of loneliness, stress, and perhaps guilt, shame. And that would have been it. Had she not remembered emptying her pockets of everything on the beach, every last note, coin, pebble, and all the collected sea glass. When she went back to the flat, her pockets were empty of everything except the keys, yet the actual sea glass picked up by her from the beach and offered to her by the smiling, altered young man was there. There. No, there in the flat on the hardwood floor. A mysterious and material fact. She had planned the woman in the film to make a necklace out of the sea glass, but she didn't. She took it home and put it in her desk drawer. And of course, much more important things came to pass. Terrible war and the sudden and violent death of her son. Gradually, the sea glass, less and less important, worked its way to the back of the drawer, became covered in dust, and was lost. Lost forever. And finally, forgotten.
You are forgotten. Calls have been put out for you, pictures posted. No one claims you. It's as if you never existed.
A shambling fear of far-off virus lands on a long timeline with refusal to cower, anger at perceived PPE corruption, government incompetence, and chorophobia. I withdraw. Tied to a keyboard, I explore the island with a new label, extremely vulnerable. I build immunity. I learn Qigong, refrain from ordering cakes and biscuits. My trousers are falling down. I am not careless, carefree, lackadaisical. Mom celebrates my new sense of responsibility, which she never understood when I campaigned for rights and independent living. But look at the care homes now. Your friends are dying as these sad institutions crumble. I apply new colours to passive resistance and survive. It seems I have not changed. I simply do things differently.
Words can be as beautiful as clouds, but you can't tread on them. He knows that, of course. They can be as sharp as glass.
When there are no banshees to cry, to warn of the impending trouble, just burlesque branches crackling under the weight of their white blossom crowns. When being light years away from each other is condensed into galaxies of falling flower petals in my window's globe. The new routine of a delayed spring might bring untested habits, and during my usual evening walks, shadows of budding twigs may still carve their unexpected story arcs into the night asphalt as a response to our live-streamed fates. Someone with a clumsy schedule that knows no boundaries may take comfort in the irregular, trembling rhythm of those mind-blowing fan dances that I cannot practice for my own temporary eternity. Being unselected as some exotic species that went extinct millions of years ago may now be described with various shades of tones the world has never heard. But to stay strong for others, I just need to go on pretending I do not carry the colorless scent of glowing siren flowers and the emptiness of the childless playgrounds inside me. When there are no banshees to cry, just the silent drizzling of inner teardrops.
Words can be beautiful, but they are stuck as shards of glass in my craw.
Was strangled, and I was almost afraid to breathe. And in my dreams I saw a coronavirus floating like a red strawberry-flavored gummy bear, lethal, traveling like an invisible agent, like an uninvited guest. And in the supermarkets, no toilet paper, no flour, no eggs, everything, everyone disappearing. 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 Love and hate battled in the world. Brexit, immigration, personal and political borders. And yet, we had time to breathe. And hope crept out of the shadows, and I learned to be patient, to be okay with waiting. I appreciated the bird song, and in the precious moments when I escaped from Zoom, no traffic. And then the neighborhoods were kettled.
Traffic, mate, traffic.
LTNs, low traffic networks, trapped in our homes and outside. I lost my sense of time. What is time? And then back to work.
It's so important that we're here and we have the opportunity to work face to face. We're here. Let's take the opportunities that we have and celebrate our chance to be the most extraordinary actors that we can be. Just take the space and remove
My art fills me with hope.
Hope. Hope. For even the broken.
I feel like it actually broke me, and except for my family and my crewmate who was going through it with me at the time, no one really understands, and no one knows the actual truth and what we went through. And yeah, I get people they can imagine, but I just feel like I don't really, as much as I'm getting upset about it, I feel like I shouldn't get upset about it, because that is my job. But no one said that, if no one's prepared us for pandemics or for anything similar to this to happen. As in, for example, when you had the Spanish flu, etc. During training sessions and training lessons, no one taught us or told us what to do.
For even the forgotten.
For one moment, against the reality of something nasty spreading, they started to see more. Everything appeared in figures, diminishing, rising, levelling and resurging again. They knew they weren't alone, and yet focused on themselves, they hesitated, mind winding round and back. They were used to what life had become. But now was a time to rethink. They thought about history. They thought about consequences, about love. They thought about the earth, death, legacy, about a future and opportunity. Yet still, in that time they imagined the worst that could happen, the best that could happen, and what they could do. Now,
one moment after the reality of something nasty spreading, we started to see each other.
Before the plague, the pandemic, we grubbed about on our own, quietly, trying to stay alive somehow. Then came the killers in the night in jeeps, with their nets and knives, and eventually their promises, their boats. And never mind plague, let's not forget, there are always wars. The war, making smoking mountains of rubble out of lost, everyday, ordinary happiness, twisted photo frames and cereal boxes, a child's shoe, our neighbors back from shopping for milk and dog food, blasted and crucified on their own garden fence. The sea, even when it is black and spewing, has always brought dawn, and with dawn comes hope, doesn't it? Hope. I left behind me nothing but 3 mounds of earth, but still, don't ask me why. Somewhere, I felt there was hope.
Her lips are moving, ma'am.
I can see.
She's trying to speak.
So we can claw our way out now, out from the roots of the tree. The soil is warm from the sun now. Taste the air. Feel the crunch of the leaves. And they say it's over. They say it's all over now. They say it's over. They say it's all over now. So why are we singing, singing, singing? The Pangolin Blues.
Nothing's changed here. Look around you. Nothing's changed around here.
So why are we singing, singing, singing? Hoping, hoping, hoping for change in the Pangolin News. So do you remember the artist lady at the beginning? Well, she left one dark, warm night and she travelled far away and he never found her.
The fish and chip shop lady volunteered for mountain rescue, and her daughter Lydia donated her special light to Oxfam, and she bought a llama.
In and out lady took in a refugee family.
The brown coat man became environmental secretary.
And the black girls became prime minister, police commissioners, and buy and sell TikTok.
People stop seeing and hating. People to take the moment and grab action.
And not being afraid of change.
And we cherish our freedom. Singing, singing, singing the blues. Hoping for change in the Pangolin News.
You said she must find her voice, ma'am.
Singing? 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 Ridiculous. I didn't mean singing.
Let dogs delight, the bark and bite. For it's their nature so, but little children.
So, that's what I did in May 2022. Unexpectedly, I joined a troupe of traveling players who shared their stories of that strange time in front of folk. Choosing to breathe the same air for the first time in nearly 2 years. Stories of lockdown, of conspiracies and loneliness and masks, and catching breath, I suppose, holding breath. We made art together. We performed together. It was a way of trying to make sense of that time and what happened to us. I played the part of a pangolin because its treatment, before the pandemic, during the pandemic, and after, is an emblem of everything that is wrong in the world. The performance wasn't perfect, but sometimes it was transformative. We shall never forget the people we loved, who lost their lives. We shall never forget the mistakes made. They made, we made. So, now you know my story. I escaped from somewhere. I was hopeful. I found my voice. But I don't know how my story ends. I don't know its ending.